Here we are again, Martin, Michigan. We're going to run Buzz's Bomber again. But we're going to do some upgrades on this thing before we ship it back out there. Before we had what we call a bird catcher on top of a 671 blower. Now this is a pretty small injector. But now we're going to put on DMP Darren Mayer Performance Engineering carbon fiber injector hat. Yep, it's got a lot more square area. Hopefully we can feed this little 671 a little more air, produce a little more boost, make this thing go a little faster. Darren made us this prototype on his 3D printer that's going to show the location of the injector while we do modifications to the body to accept this thing. I mean, the things that you can do with a 3D printer is pretty awesome, but Darren spit this thing out and allowed the Bowen family to actually make the openings and things that we need to do on the body itself. And here is the plate that he ended up with. Just crazy, the machine work and time that goes into making just these simple items like this. I mean, this thing is just awesome. Not only are we trying to get more air volume into the blower opening, but we're also trying to divert it towards the back of it. Now, the last time we were out, we had an issue. The body was starting to cave in on the side. You know, this is a big problem. I don't even know what kept this thing from folding up, but the Bowen family took this thing back and analyzed what was going on, starting with the father, Mike, and his two sons that both race. One actually drives a little better than the other, probably Sean, but he is actually the driver of many cars that have been in the family. But there's also Scott, who actually does the mechanical aspect of it, tries to catch his brother on fire most of the time. Anyway, but they got all the upgrades to the body, what was needed. A bunch of more tree work, a bunch of the reinforcements along the sides, and we ended up with a body that was going to be capable of running, 260 mile an hour plus. So this is the test day before the big show this weekend. And so what we decided to do, we were just going to run this thing half track. There's a lot of variables going on here. Number one, the body itself. But number two, this big injector that we put on here. How much more fuel is this thing going to burn? Hell, by that matter, is it restricted enough on the top of the blower and the big injector is not going to make a difference at all? If it does burn more fuel, then you better put enough in it to where it doesn't burn the damn thing up. I mean, if it burns the head gasket out of it, it's going to catch this damn thing on fire. You put too much fuel in it, it's going to drop cylinders, and that's going to be hard on the motor also. So that's one of the reasons why we're going to run this thing half track. I made a good guesstimate about how much fuel I think this thing's going to burn. I think it's going to produce more blower pressure. So I'm thinking that I'm going to add a couple more gallons per hour in this thing throughout the whole run. Now, this thing can't burn all the fuel on the starting line when you hit the gas. And as it goes down the track, you're adding fuel volume to it as the load of the car increases. Another variable we added was some different clutch discs. I went with some more aggressive clutch discs just to try and get us a little more ET early on in the run. Well, this is at the point when you tell the driver, everything's okay, it's all in your hands. Because guess what? It is. Well, that was a pretty damn good test run. It did everything we wanted to do. I also want to show you something else. If you're not that excited about what you do, in life and what you're doing, this is what the excitement level looks like when you're doing it right. Right here. We're not even driving the car, and both of us, we're looking down at our arms, and we got goosebumps all over them. That's a great feeling. And it's a great feeling to be able to show up and do the things you enjoy doing. Well, I guess that's what they say when track racing might be a truck. But this thing ran pretty good. It went 371 at the 8th mile at 223 miles an hour. So it's definitely going the right direction. So to close out the testing deal, there's a pair of jet dragsters there at the track. And I thought, well, man, let's see how close I can get to the back of these things. Well, this was about it. It was getting a little hot. Anyway, who loves jet dragsters? I think everybody. On to the next problem here. So the next morning, we're checking things out and we heard this noise. When we were turning the motor over, these levers were falling down and actually getting in the way of the input shaft. And so they were trying to catch on some of these splines. Now, so what we had to do here was come in there and remove this material off the back of this input shaft. Now, this is some pretty hard stuff. And here at the track, we don't have a lathe in the trailer. So we had to make do with what we had. So we had this injector nozzle, and I beat it in the end of this thing, and we're going to use that to actually drive this input shaft. And then, Scott was looking around. He's like, oh, hey, check it out. We have an idler pulley, and that bearing that's inside there just happens to fit the front of that input shaft like perfectly. And so we put this all together, and guess what?
You get that?
Voila. We've got a lathe. I swear it's a lathe, right? It's got a motor. It's got all the things that look like a lathe, and it's got live tooling. That's me. I just want to be really careful not to get down on the small diameter part of the shaft. And if I do, I want to make sure there's no kind of gouges, because that can start a fracture in this actual shaft. You just want to make sure that everything is completely smooth, that there's no gouging or any of that going on to kind of start any kind of area that could actually end up in a bad situation. How about that intense look there on Scott Bowen? You know, that there is a mean looking lathe, if you ask me.
It really does look pretty nice. I mean,
yeah, not too shabby.
No. I'm pretty much okay with that right now.
I think that'll work. Just give us enough room.
Yeah. You're gonna be like the hardwood.
So we ended up also making a spacer on this shaft.
Oh yeah.
Because the end play was a little too much, allowing those to come back. We wanted to make sure that that wasn't going to happen again. So Sean Bowen, my clutch guy this weekend, gets this thing back together. We're going to get ready to hit the gas on this thing one more time.
Can you say that on YouTube?
Probably.
Looks like we just did.
So now we're going to run this girl the whole quarter mile. That's right, not 1,000 foot, quarter mile. After the last run, the test run that went just a half track, everything looked awesome. So this gives us the green light, I think, to go ahead and pull the trigger on this thing and ship her the whole way. You know, when I got involved with this project, one of the first things that they wanted to have happen was to have a car that was consistent, that was making laps every time that it went up to the starting line. You know, and so far, we've had that happen. It's been very blessed to be associated with the Bowens and Artie and the whole group that works on this car. Everyone is just out here to watch each other's back and to make sure that Mark is safe in this car when this thing's going down the track. Anyone knows when you add nitromethane to the tank, you've created issues. You've created a window of opportunity for bad things to happen. And it's our job to make sure that these things don't happen. So it's important to have a team that works well together, that is very oriented with looking at all the fine details on these things to make this thing get down the track. So after this thing backs up, you know, we'll take the throttle stop off of it. I'll jump underneath here and do the fine idle adjustment before it goes into stage, and also look down and see what my fuel flow is. It's pretty critical at idle. That's going to be the temperature of that cylinder head and everything as it's going into stage before we, you know, load this thing up full of fuel before it takes off here. When the car pulls up to the start line, I generally like to get a good look at it and make sure that this thing is pointed straight. But sometimes it's hard to tell when you're inside the car that if you're not pointed to the right just a little bit, because a lot of the time the front ends are up on these things and you're not going to drive them for 60 to 100 foot. So it's critical that this thing is pointed the right way. And just like that, there's a whole pass. He did get out of it early down there, but we'll find out what's going on.
Got out way early.
So let's not screw around. Let's get this thing going back down the track again. So we took it back and serviced it, fired this puppy up, and now we're getting it ready to run the night sessions. Pretty confident about this thing. The parts all look great. We're just going to ship this thing all the way down through there. My driver, he's got a good lap underneath him. Let's see what this old girl's going to do. This thing ran 554 at 200 and almost 69 miles an hour. Awesome pass.
Holy shit! Holy shit! 554, 268!
Right down Broadway, brother.
Oh my God.
Thanks. You are the best.
Well, hell, that was so much fun. Let's do it again. Well, Mark's starting to feel his Wheaties a little bit now, so he did a burnout that was, that's quite a ways down there. Everybody likes a good show, right? I mean, it's a ways down there. It was just awesome as hell. So we're looking for a repeat again. The last run was awesome. The parts look great. We just need to do it again. Make a good show. .555 at 263. I'd say that's a pretty good repeat and a great way to close the season with a great run. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate all of you. Thank you.